Welcome to dimly lit meals for one.
Drinking alone and browsing the internet do not go hand in hand. I was sitting alone in my stinking flat listening to Radio 4, browser open to multiple tabs, when I heard a piece about Broadway musical The Book of Mormon. Mormons, I thought. I know a bit about Mormons. What more can Wikipedia tell me? So, switching off the whiskey and Marlborough-soaked tones of Mario Frostrop, and down into the wiki hole I went. I learnt about their magical underwears, the persecutions they suffered, their avoidance of tea and coffee, and all about how black people didn't used to be allowed into heaven but now were. It was fascinating stuff, but I was full of the Polsky beers. My eyes were leaking Tisky tears. I didn't know what I was doing. I started thinking I'd order my own Book of Mormon, to get the inside scoop. I got onto the LDS website and ordered my free copy of their holiest of holy books. I came to. It was Sunday morning. My jeans were damp with beer and recycled beer, and my mouth was a rank and furry ashtray. For a man like me, forever trapped in a Morrissey lyric, every day was a Sunday. I thought of food. I thought about the act of cooking a meal to nourish myself, to keep my body alive even after the soul had long died. I went to the kitchen, boiled some carrots, and let darkness descend on me. It was some days later. It could have been weeks, the way the days become indistinguishable from one another. At home, a man alone with box sets and high chemical content beer. Life at work being a series of petty humiliations and snide remarks about my cupcakes. I was sat in my dark and smoky flat. I heard a knock on the door. People hardly ever knocked on my door. The last time had been 7 months ago. I'd been screaming in my sleep and the upstairs neighbour thought I was being murdered. I had to explain that the dreams had come back, as if they'd know what that meant, as if I knew. I couldn't leave the door unanswered. What if it was a burglar, knocking to see if anyone was at home? They might try and break in, leave me in a position of having to stab them to death on the kitchen floor. No, better to bite down on my anxiety, swallow the awkwardness and go answer the door. It took me a moment to process the tall, clean-cut young men in front of me, shirts, ties, a cold dead look behind the eyes. In that moment I took mental inventory of the many people I've wronged over the years. Which of them might go to lengths of having me killed, of paying 2 men to barge into my fetid flat, tie me up and beat me to death having tortured me for my PIN number. They introduced themselves as Elder Alvarez and Elder Norris, and my worries of a sadistic and unpleasant demise disappeared, to be replaced with a mild concern and a single question. Why were there Mormon missionaries at my door? Elder Alvarez answered my question before I even had the chance to ask it. "Hi there, sir. We understand you ordered a free copy of the Book of Mormon, is that right?" Oh dear, I thought. I really need to cut back on my drinking. It was grimly reminiscent of a similar incident in which I ended up hosting an Ann Summers party after a night spent sampling some vintage rums. "Yes," I answered cautiously. Yes, I think I did in fact order a book from you. I suppose you'd better come in." A look somewhere between pleasant surprise and mild panic flashed over Elder Norris's face. "Are you sure? That's real kind of you, sir. We just thought you might like to talk briefly about it, seeing as you ordered it," and I, double locking the door and pocketing the key, I let him trail off as I led the two increasingly uncomfortable looking missionaries into my living room, which looked for all the world like a serial killer's lair. At that moment, I was struck with awful clarity by how powerful an emotion human loneliness is. The two missionaries sat awkwardly next to one another on a couch deeply marinated in human and feline urine. "Tea?" I inquired eagerly. "Gee, sorry, we don't partake of hot drinks with caffeine in them. We'd both be happy with a glass of water though, right?" It seemed Alvarez was doing all the talking for the pair. Norris had retreated heavily into himself. "The water in this flat really needs to be boiled before you can drink it, so hot chocolate's all round." As I raced to the kitchen to make the freeze-dried hot chocolate from a packet, it dawned on me that I didn't want these two men to leave. My initial apprehension at having strangers in the house had turned into a warm, enveloping euphoria at having company, a feeling not dissimilar to the first few days after having your citalopram dosage increased. Wandering back into the living room, I saw the young Mormon's eyes take inventory of the animal skulls, comic book figurines, psychedelic rock posters and volumes on the occult which were lit all over the odorous flat. At first the pair spoke reticently about the tenements of their faith, but soon warmed up to their topic. They told me many fantastic things. They spoke of angels and golden plates, of a future stakeholder of my very own planet, a secret mountain lair where they could make my dead relatives Mormon for an involved form of retroactive baptism my mind was too drink-addled to grasp. Finally it became apparent that they'd run out of things to say and were eager to leave this lonely man's abode. "You must be hungry," I said, my voice full of purpose. "Please join me for dinner." Despite the stench of my mad loneliness urging every atom within them to flee, the two missionaries had a genetic Utah politeness which made them putty in my sweaty hands. They sat in stony silence as I talked to them from the kitchen. "Must be sunny in Utah." "It's never sunny here in England. I think if I was to have my own planet, it would be sunny all the time." I prattled on, crudely slicing carrots and opening a fresh can of pick. I assembled 3 plates of meat and veg for myself and my very hungry Mormons. A cool breeze struck me as I brought the first plates into the living room. A window, which I would assume was painted shut and subsequently never opened, was wide open. There was no sign of my missionary friends. On the coffee table was my free Book of Mormon, attached with a note. We had to leave urgently, but the front door was locked shut and you wouldn't listen to us when we asked to leave. Thank you very much for the hot chocolate. We're going back to Utah now. We do not have Facebook. Sorry. I walked over to the bookshelf and pulled out a copy of The Watchtower, scanning for the familiar digits which made up the number of my local Jehovah's Witness chapter. We'll have someone there within the hour, a reassuring voice told me. I went to the kitchen, putting the plates into the warm oven so they wouldn't cool. Tonight I'd not be dining alone.